Oh gosh, as I'm saying it, it's pretty like intense.
Actually, I'm trying so hard not to just laugh so hard into the microphone right now.
As you can tell, I had an absolute blast talking to my friend and mentor, Brittany Binion. She's a photographer and she really takes the stress out of photos. I just love her. And today we talk about how she influenced me and helped me get my business started, how to take the stress out of family photos, virtual photo shoots, puzzles, and much, much more. So without further ado, episode number 40. Taking the stress out of photos with Brittany Binion. Welcome to the I Cut the Mustard show, where you'll learn how to stop stressing, stop stress eating, and start fitting into those skinny jeans. Because whether it's belly fat or bloating, stress stinks. But don't worry, you've got what it takes. You're sharp enough.
Welcome to the podcast. I'm here with my friend, Brittany Binion. I'm super excited because we haven't talked to each other in a while. And she's a photographer and started doing mostly family photos at the beginning and then moved into branding photography recently. And she's a mom of 5 kids, super busy, super amazing. You've got your own branding business now, helping entrepreneurs take great photos and market their business. And Brittany's got a podcast as well, which she can tell us a little bit more about. But welcome to the podcast, Brittany. I'm so excited to have you here.
Oh, thank you so much, Michelle. I am so excited to be here with you.
Okay, so just to get started, I'm curious about your journey to become a photographer. So did you always know that you loved photos? Like, were you one of those kids that was always taking pictures, or was it something that you kind of came to later in life?
That's a great question. So I actually grew up as a competitive dancer. And so I always thought that that was kind of where my life was going to take me. And then I had a couple of debilitating injuries that put a stop to that. But one of the best things about that is I have been in front of the camera a lot. And so when I went to university, I ended up choosing to study communication and journalism. And I learned a ton about film, so video, and also still photography as well. So that was part of just my curriculum that I learned at university, and I loved it. And so I worked for a couple years in TV, and then became a mom. As you said, I got 5 kids, and that takes up so much of my time. But I knew that I wanted to be able to use some of my skills to take pictures of my family and to take pictures of others' families. And so I just kind of transitioned into becoming a photographer. And I talk a lot about my dance background, which is kind of funny because I feel like when you're taking pictures, it's literally like you kind of have to choreograph people to get into the best like poses and positions. I know I've taken your family pictures before, and it's like it's kind of a bit of an art to get everybody to be happy and smiling and in the same place at the same time. So I think it really heavily relies on that skill of mine.
Yeah, I think so too. You mentioned that you took some of my family pictures. You took my branding photos that I use everywhere and that I love. Actually, I love them so much. And I remember talking to your sister actually, and she was telling me about your dance background. And she's like, I think that's why she's so good at photography, because she just like knows how to pose everyone perfectly and turn your head a certain way.
She had to kind of like push me to like include that in part of my story, because for so long I was like, that doesn't have anything to do with it. She's like, no, you really know what a body looks like because that's what you worked with for years and years. And I was like, oh, maybe you're right. I think you're right. So that's funny she mentioned that to you.
Yeah. Sometimes it's so close to you. It's just so natural. You don't really realize that it's even, a talent that you have. But yeah, speaking of kids though, and family photos, you were just so great at working with kids and getting them to actually look good in the photos that you do. But I know the many people can find that exhausting. Like I've been to those, around Christmas, all of our families will go to those photo shoot places and the people are there with the toys and they just look like, it just looks really exhausting. So I was wondering what tricks you have. Maybe you could trick or two with us about how you rein in the kids and make it look so easy.
Oh, for sure. Well, let me tell you, it's a million times easier to work with somebody else's children than it is to work with your kids. So if, for example, you're trying to take pictures of your own kids and you're getting frustrated, you are not alone, my friend, because that is just kind of the nature of working with your kids and trying to get them to take pictures. Okay. I have a very ugly side of myself when I take pictures of my own kids. So that is probably one thing. It's like, you just have to mentally segment out and say like, okay, I don't have to do I don't have to take these kids home. I don't have to feed them. I don't have to make sure that they're happy for the rest of the day. I just have to bring as much energy as possible to this session right now, and then the kids will feed off of that. So, no kid wants to sit still and stare at a camera and smile. Like, that's just not fun. So really the best way to do it is to make sure that you're bringing the energy and you're having a lot of fun. Turn it into some games. I love playing games, and then the parents love that too, because we talk about like dealing with kids, but dads are almost worse than kids
That's
when
really
it comes
funny.
to taking pictures, right? So it just is like, and that's kind of a good outlook, I think, on life, right? There's so many things that we just don't want to do or that we feel forced to do, but if we can turn it into a game or whatever energy we're bringing to it, it really is reflected back in that, and that's where we can find that enjoyment and have such a better outcome because of it.
Awesome. I love that. I feel like I was just recording a course that I'm making actually about health coaching, and I'm like screaming into the camera, don't do anything you don't want to do. Like, make it fun. Stop making yourself do stuff. So I just love that idea of bringing the energy in and making it a game. And I think that's one of your talents that you probably don't realize that you do as much either, that because you're a mom, you like know all these distraction things like, hey, look over here, let's go dance over here or walk over here. It's like a lot of things that you just learn as a parent that you bring into it too.
100%. Yeah. You do have these things, and having, like I said, having 5 kids and having the experience, and like I said, with my dance career, I would teach 2 and 3-year-olds how to stand in a line and go onto stage and do all these poses. So like, it's really, that helps with the kids too. Like, if I can get a kid to do a plie and a bow and then walk off the stage without crying, like, I can take a picture of a kid for 30 seconds, right?
Yeah, they can hold it.
Yeah, and moms do the same thing. Like, moms and parents, they can handle their children, and so just take all of the skills that you have and just focus it into that, and you can really get a good picture of your kids.
Yeah, that sounds good. That's giving us hope for our future pictures right there.
Yeah.
Well, and I know now you recently moved and made a shift from, you're still doing family photos, but you've made a shift into branding. And I've got to share my story about Brittany because she is the reason I'm here today. And that's not even exaggeration, but I came to you like 2 years ago and I wanted to start a business, and I thought I wanted to start a podcast, but I'm like, oh, I'm going to need photos. So I came to be like, just try to understand what I might need and how I get these photos to look good. I was totally lost. I didn't know what I didn't know. And you were totally supportive of me. And you just sat down and like answered all of my questions, which were totally random questions about like, do I need a lawyer? Do I need to do this? What do I need to track on my taxes? But you were just like so chill about it, kind of asking me like, what's holding you back? And just told me that I could totally do this. And you gave me some marketing advice. You let me borrow a self-help book, which was really nice. But I think the biggest part was that you just made me give me permission to believe in myself. At the beginning stages, I was just like, I don't know if I can do this. It's an idea that I have and I'm really passionate, but I feel like a nobody still, and who's going to listen to me? And you're just like, hey, this is totally, you can do this. Like, it was, every mom's an entrepreneur. Of course you can handle this, And it's like, I'm like, Brittany says I can do this. So then the next day I started, or pretty soon after, I started my email list, and I just went for it. It took me a while to get to the podcast actually, but yeah, you're the reason that I am here. So I just wanted to give you a big thank you over the microphone for that.
Oh my gosh, Michelle, I'll be honest, I had no idea. Because and thank you. Everything that you said was, gosh, so kind, but I had no idea because it didn't take much to push you over the edge, girl, because you have just taken off and just gone a million miles an hour and just really fully embraced it. And I have loved watching every single step of the way. I'm just in awe of what you have been able to do and build in the time that you've started to move forward with this. So yeah, no, I think it's wonderful, and you make it fun. And like I said, that's kind of a great energy to bring to everything.
Yeah, if you're going to do it, you might as well have fun, right?
Right.
Yeah. Well, thank you. That's so sweet. But yeah, so I mentioned that you gave me the self-help book, and you were also really good at guiding me to like think of stories, try to tell a story and build your know, like, and trust factor and things like that. Not everybody on my listening to this wants to be an entrepreneur, but I really just enjoyed all the motivation and inspiration that you gave me. And I wanted to know where you, like your personal journey, and where do you get your inspiration for the things that you do?
Yeah. Well, and I think you bring a good point, because a lot of times we do talk about business and entrepreneurial journeys and things, but it just parallels anybody's life journey. Okay. And so where do I get my inspiration? I found this interesting, is that it really is the people that you surround yourself with. And, you hear you are the total sum of the 5 people that you surround yourself with. And I was having, it's been interesting, like the time of life and the season that I'm in, the people I surround myself are little children. And they do not help motivate me to do too much beyond just survival. But we live in such an amazing world where we can grow and learn through podcasts, through YouTube, through blogs, through books. And so I really have on my journey, have just kind of surrounded myself and my 5 people. Maybe I don't know them in person, but I think that we are best friends. And so it's the podcast I listen to. It's the books that I read. I think that I find it so funny that the book that I lent you, like one of my kids, I think, had taken a bite out of the back of the book, if you remember.
Yeah, it was a little rough. It was well loved.
It was really rough, but it's just things like that. And what I had to do was I had a mind shift of, yes, I am in this amazing role in motherhood, but it's not going to be like this forever. And I had to take a moment, and I had to look at my mom. My mom is the most giving, selfless person in the world. She gave everything and still continues to do everything for her kids. And at some point in time, she had to make this shift. And I see this with a lot of women. They make this shift from, I'm in this role of a mother, or, maybe I do work as well, but now the kids are out of the house. Who am I? What do I have to give? And I just didn't want that in my life. I wanted to always know who I was and where I was going, always have goals and dreams that I was continually working on through the entirety of my life, even though it would look different in the different seasons of my life. So I've always loved work. I've always loved to learn. I write in my journal every day that I learn something new every day. And so that kind of mindset and that kind of, attitude has kind of really helped me to move forward and grow. And like I said, it's just that support that I have with the people I surround myself with.
That's beautiful. I feel like I had that aha this week as well. I was writing down my future me, like the me that makes millions of dollars. What would that look like? And I was writing everything down. And the funny thing that I notice when I'm coaching people too is, whenever I'm 100 pounds lighter, I'm going to do this, 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 and this. But you are like, those things are totally accessible to you right now, most of the time. And I thought, I wonder if that's true for me. And I wrote it all down. But one of the things I was thinking was, I'm going to have all these amazing friends that have like these great ideas and are so motivational. And I'm writing it all down. And number one, I thought, man, I already have great friends like that, actually, who
That's
are
so true.
awesome. And then also what you said about people on the podcast being my friend. Like the only reason they're my friend is because I think they're my friend. And I'm like, well, I can be their friend right now. Like you were saying.
Yeah.
Then I'm curious about, though, who are your top 5 friends? Maybe you don't know all 5 of them, but give us a top 1 or 2.
Okay. Well, right now it just kind of comes down to my mentors. So right now my 3 business mentors are Amy Porterfield, James Wedmore, and Jess O'Connell. And so I focus a lot on business because within photography, I teach the women that I work with how to build and grow their businesses and their brands. So I really have to continue to educate myself. So those are like my huge go-to people in terms of learning for myself. But I also have some other amazing things. One, I do a lot of like mindset too. I know you and I have had a lot of discussions about this. I absolutely love Brooke Castillo and the work that she does with the Life Coach School, and also Jody Moore. She's one of her master teachers, master coaches in her program that I follow a lot. And then I would say probably my 5th person would be whatever book I'm currently reading. And because I think I really try to read good books that help me either with business or mindset. I'm not a huge like fiction reader, only because I usually fall asleep, not because there's not great books out there, but usually if I sit down to read a book, I'm exhausted and I'm about ready to fall asleep. So yeah, my 5th one I'd have as a rotating person. Also, like I said, I have some amazing people, family and friends that really just support me. So it's wonderful.
Yeah, that's great. There are some of those people on your list I hadn't heard of yet, so I'm going to have to check them out. And I think that's really funny that you say that, because I find that, or at least the friends that I have who are entrepreneurs love to read nonfiction books. And like, I find myself always reading them. I'm like, we need to start a nonfiction book club, because I just thought I was the only one. But the more I talk to people, I'm like, oh, there's other weird people like me.
It's true. And then it's so fun to get together and be like, well, this and this and this. I feel like there's almost more to talk about when you're doing a book like that.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I wanted to continue a little bit of my story as well, that because after we did the first branding session together and you gave me all that inspiration, I went off on my merry way, and then I'm like, oh, this is actually not what I want at all, which you said happens a lot. But that's great. We could go into talking about failure, right? And how great that is. But then I did a whole rebranding that was like 50s theme, which I really loved. And I told you, I've got to redo this. And I had moved at the time. So I'm like, I'm coming back into town. And don't you have time to take my pictures? I just need like 10 or 15. And then you just blazed in and you're like, oh yeah, we'll do it in 30 minutes. And we took it in our friend's apartment, which is just like graduate housing apartment, but you made it look so amazing. And I tell everybody, like, look, this looks like a magazine and this is like a normal house. It's cool. And then, then you gave me like 90 photos or 60 photos or something that were all gorgeous. You're like, oh, just have them. It's fine. So I was just amazed by all of that. And because you're so busy, and I feel like, especially with COVID and kids and everything that's going on right now, it can be really stressful. So I was wondering how you're balancing everything that's going on right now.
Oh goodness, that's the most all-encompassing question of it all. Like, okay, so first, let's just dismantle this thought of balance, okay? Because there is no such thing. There's always something like it. You know, when we think of balance, like there's a scale, and it never ever is fully balanced. If you put more time and effort into one thing, then something's got to shift, right? And that is such a freeing thought for me. And so what it comes down to is, instead of like balance, I've got to prioritize. And sometimes I don't have the best skills in that. I always say that I'd love to have a much cleaner house, or I'd love my laundry system with 5 children to be a lot simpler. But alas, that kind of ends up being something that ends up happening at like midnight on Sunday night for me to try and catch up to the week. But how do I get through and manage all of these? One, from a business sense, you need to have systems in place, because then it gets everything out of your head onto paper and it makes it easier. And then your brain is able to have more space to be creative, to think, and to actually just enjoy the life that you're living. So when I say like have systems in place, we know, and I said this actually for business, but it really just pertains to anything in life, right? If you do something over and over and over again, like I know for you and your clients, like you talk a ton about meal planning, right? Like, let's make this as simple as possible, right? We don't have to reinvent the wheel every single time. I know that this is something that for years drove me crazy. I was like, oh, I have to come up with these elaborate meals and I can't think of anything and I'm exhausted and then I have to shop and it was just so overwhelming. But if you have a system in place, then it makes it super simple to do. Same with like exercise, right? Okay, my system in place is I set my clothes out the night before, and it's just eliminating those little things. So how do I get things done? Really, it's just having some systems in place and sticking to them the best that I can. I know that like COVID throws things in, and I had like 2 weeks where I felt like my world had been turned upside down. I couldn't work. I had children like running around like crazy, stuck indoors, and I just was lost for a little bit. And I feel like that's probably a feeling that many people had. And I started to revert to old habits. I was staying up super late. I was eating junk food. I was eating all the feelings. All of the feelings were coming to me through food. And I would sleep in and wait till the kids woke up. It was really bad. And it wasn't until I was like, no, even in trying times, even in uncertain times, even with a pandemic, or we don't know what's going to happen left or right, if I stick to those same systems, then I can have a beautiful life and get my goals accomplished and move forward and have great experiences with my kids.
That's wonderful. I love all of that. Yeah, thanks for putting in a plug for me there. My system. I'm all about systems too. But yeah, I like how you were talking about how they're kind of like an anchor for you, that things can change, but you've kind of have these habits that you have consistently, and if you can keep those consistent, then and everything else can kind of shift a little bit and you stay on top of things, instead of maybe if you're not in balance, you're at least moving forward or feeling good about yourself, going in a good direction.
Right.
And I was going to ask you this funny question. I was going to ask you this question, which actually lined up perfectly right here on my sheet. But first, I'm going to ask, do you like puzzles?
Oh, do I like puzzles?
Yes, like jigsaw puzzles.
You know, yes and no. I like them if I have like a calm time to do them. But if I feel like I'm like rushed or pressured to do them, because like the kids are going to come and destroy it, we've got to get the puzzle done really fast and onto a safe place. It's not so super fun. So I guess on my own terms, I like to do puzzles. Yes.
Okay. And then I'm always curious, because I feel like if you're a puzzler, like how you do the puzzle is just so telling of your personality. So I'm just curious, what kind of a puzzler are you? Like when you sit down at the puzzle, how do you approach this thing?
This is such a fascinating question, but it's true. I see where you're going on this. Okay. So I'm a border puzzler. We always do the border first. And I say we because I don't ever do puzzles by myself. It is a multi-person task, because then I would never do it. Okay. So that's probably the first telling thing of me. If I've got this big puzzle task, we've got to have lots of hands on it. First thing would be we sort edges. We do the edge first, and then we sort probably by color is what it is. And then everybody gets to do their own little section. We find the easiest things first. Like we find like the letters, if the puzzle has like words on it or numbers or something, like we know that those are going to be easy to put together. And then we do the last part is the hardest part, like the sky or the ocean, where everything's pretty much the same color and you just have to like slowly fit pieces. So when we get to that part, we will line up, and I know this is hard to describe on a podcast, but we'll line up the shapes. So like the shape that like pokes out are all on the same side, and then the shapes that indent in are all on the other side. So it's really easy to just match those things up, and we're not just like pulling at strings to try and throw spaghetti at the wall to get it done. So oh gosh, as I'm saying it, it's pretty like intense.
Actually, I'm trying so hard not to just laugh so hard into the microphone right now.
That sounded intense, didn't it? Okay, tell me what my personality is now, right?
It's so hilarious, actually, because, well, you just brought up systems, which I thought was so funny because I was about to ask you this question. And then you have like the most elaborate system I've ever heard anyone tell me about a puzzle.
Girl, we do puzzles here.
The other reason I was laughing is because it's like almost exactly word for word my system.
Awesome. See, this is why we connect.
Oh, it's so funny. Yeah, because but I really love all the things you said because they kind of mimic what you just said a second ago with your business. That you like never do it by yourself. You've got friends that are around you that are motivating you. And then you're a border person. Like you set up the boundaries and then you sort it so that you know what's going on. So you got your systems and then you start with the easy part and then you move to the hard part. So you just are moving forward and you're trying things. And then the last part we do not do where we line up all the pieces by the shape, which I thought that was really fun, but like extra detailed. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just really like.
I'm the only one in my family who does that. Everybody else thinks I'm crazy when I get to that point, but I'm trying to teach my daughter that way because she loves puzzles way more than anybody else. And I'm like, this is the way to do it, Ella. I promise. And so.
This is the right way. Please come to my side.
Yeah, I indoctrinate her with puzzle sorting. But
yeah,
no, I love that. That's a beautiful little analogy you've got there.
Yeah, it's funny. Well, we like to do puzzles, and I just assumed that everybody did them my way. You know how you just don't realize. And the more that we have friends over, I'm like, oh, like, no, you don't do that. Like whenever my husband and I started, first of all, he wasn't a sorter. And he was like a border person, but then he didn't sort by color. And I was like, how can you do a puzzle without sorting by color? His dad's an engineer, but I think they sort the borders, but then his dad leaves all the pieces in the box. And then he just like ruffles around trying to find the right piece. Oh my goodness.
That is a hard no.
Yeah.
No.
Right? And then another friend that we have looks at the picture. He has to have the picture, right? And then he finds the piece and picks up the piece and finds it on the picture and then puts it in. My dad's a no box kind of guy. Like that's cheating. You can't look at the box.
I'm a box person. I'm 100% a box person.
You're using all the tools that are available.
Everything. Throw it at me.
Yeah, I'm more artistic, so I'm like, you have to look at the brush strokes,
We dabbled into 3D puzzles over COVID. And if you haven't done that, don't.
Okay, so I guess along with that, a follow-up question would be then, maybe we already know the answer now. So because you work with new entrepreneurs that are just starting their brand, I was wondering if there's a lot of overwhelm there, just like starting a puzzle. I didn't even plan this. This is such a great analogy. Just there's so much overwhelm. So where do you suggest that they start whenever they come to you stressed out like I did?
All right, well, let's make this story come full circle, all right? Because after we did your branding session and then you came back to me and you're like, this isn't quite where I want it to be. I want to go in a different direction. And then you gave me some tips about like some feedback about like, this is kind of where I think I want to go and what I wanted to do. And it really made me think and do a shift in my business. So when somebody comes to me now and says, I want some pictures, I know I need to have some good pictures on my website, I say, okay, we're going to push the pause button on pictures. And then we do a whole regimen of intentional planning on their business before we even dive into the pictures. And so that they have a much better experience, and that their pictures reflect really what they want to do. And then B, they feel more confident taking their pictures. Okay. So it's really twofold how this really helps a branding session go. But if somebody comes to me and they're like, I don't even know what's left or right or up or down, I have a number of like worksheets that I have them go through that talk about what do you want to have the outcome be. So we look at like we start with the end in mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
We say, what do you want to have happen in the next 3 to 6 months? Because that's kind of the window of, we want fresh pictures. We don't want to go too far out of like a 6-month time window. So we say 3 to 6 months, what is going to happen in your business? What do you see happening in your business? And then we work backwards from there. Who are you talking to? What emails do you want to send? What messages do you want to send? And we work backwards. Another amazing tool is we work on doing a huge vision board. And this really goes into play because people just say, I don't know. Like, I don't know what colors I want. I don't know what my logo. I don't know what my logo is.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know any of this stuff. And so we kind of ask a lot of questions and flesh that out first. And we do a vision board. Pinterest is the easiest way to do a vision board. So if you're trying to figure out what you want to do with your business, with your life, with your wardrobe, with your systems, anything, go to Pinterest and just let your mind flow. And nothing is wrong when you go there. Like you can pick anything that speaks to you. And once it speaks to you, then it starts to fall into alignment with what you want to do and how you want to serve others. So that's kind of where we start. It is a bit intense now, but it just really helps to get you on the right direction and the right path for building your business.
Yeah, that's wonderful. You said that they come to it now too a lot more confident. I really realized I actually did a vision board in between the first time we did ours and the
Right.
second time. Yeah, and it was so helpful because I used to watch I Love Lucy all the time when I was a kid. And I was like, I just want to do Lucy theme kind of thing. And I came up with all these pictures. But yeah, then going into the shoot the second time, I kind of knew exactly what personality, like I was almost able to step into that persona of who she is, instead of before it was like some stories of me, but it felt kind of disconnected. I was really, like you just kept trying to get me to smile or like relax my neck or something. I just remember a lot of relaxing my neck that first time. But yeah, have you noticed then from when before you did that and then after, yeah, like what's the difference between your photo shoots now versus before?
Absolutely. Well, so you hit it on the nail. Like you had done the work of creating this vision board, and you told me all about this before we started this. And I was like, oh my gosh, I think that that's a missing piece, and that I need to be the one that's really pushing that prior to a session with my clients, because not many branding photographers do anything like that, right? So they're there, they take the picture, and then you go and talk with your designer, you talk with your website, everything like that, and they just kind of leave you there. But I was like, no, we need to make it so that they know what pictures they want and how to use them. And so the difference that I've seen is, by the time we're done with our final consultation, going into the pictures, I mean, my clients know everything from what they're going to wear to how they're going to pose to what stories to even where they're going to use these images. And then they know exactly what they want. And that's what's boosting the confidence level. When you go into something and you're like, I'm not quite sure if this is going to work. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to use this. And then you've got, I mean, photographers are so like creative and will like go off the cusp and try and make you do something weird. And you're like, what? And that just lowers your confidence. So it's all about raising your confidence so that you can have that come through in the pictures, right? So that's really the difference that I've seen, is it's a lot more confidence, and people are just happier with their images when they know that this is exactly what they came in for.
Well, yeah, that's fun. Thanks for sharing your side too. That's kind of, we grew in this together, so that's kind of
Yeah.
fun to see, right? and you make such beautiful photos. So your podcast is all about taking beautiful photos for your brand and also branding. Do you mind just giving us your top tip?
Yes. Okay. My top tip is practice. Okay. And this is the thing. We think that we're going to go into pictures or go into anything. This could relate to copywriting. This could relate to design. This could relate to accounting. It's all the same. It takes time and you need to practice it. It's a skill. And so I have one of the top questions I get from my clients are like, I don't know how to pose. And that's what my whole podcast really is about, is like posing yourself for success. So it's the Pose for Success podcast. And they say, I don't know how to pose when I go to take a picture. And I say, well, we've got to practice it. You have to practice it ahead of time. It's like if I were to hand you a paintbrush and paint and say, well, paint me some masterpiece, you wouldn't know how to do that because you haven't practiced. And same goes with moving your body and feeling comfortable in front of the camera. And so that's my number one tip. Don't think that this is something that comes natural to anybody. It doesn't. That's a lie. So it can come, quote, naturally to you if you put in the work and effort in the practice.
Beautiful. Yeah. You're going to be bad at it, right? That's what
Yes.
I like to say. I wanted to bring up your virtual photo shoot that you've got going on now that it's COVID and everybody had to go online or else you're losing lots of money. It seems like a scary time for business owners. And as a photographer, that's pretty hands-on. And I was curious about what you were doing, but I knew that you had the branding side too. So I thought, oh, maybe she just shifted into that. But then I saw that you had some virtual photo shoots, which I thought was really creative. And I wanted to hear, how does that even work?
Right. So you're right. As a photographer, I have to be working with people one-on-one, and I am hands-on, like with the posing and fixing hair and adjusting and making kids happy and in your business, moving props around. So I had to, once I recognized that we were in COVID for the long haul, I had to say, what is it that my clients need right now? And how can I solve that problem? And they needed, in particular, for branding, they needed pictures because they needed to move forward in their business. They needed to have updated images. They needed to be able to communicate visually to their clients and their customers and not just go radio silent. So I said, they need images. How do I get images to them? Well, you could do stock images, but we know that stock images don't perform as well, like significantly less. A image with you and your brand inside of the image performs at least 2 times better. Okay, now when I say 2 times better, that's 100% better. So I made this shift and I said, well, people can't go anywhere and they can't learn anything really. They can't go to a camera store and pick out a camera. They can't hire a photographer. What can we do? So I put together 2 courses, and one is for branding, and I actually have one for families too. And it teaches you all about taking pictures with the equipment that you have in your house. So we're using your phones. We're using that old DSLR that you've never busted out the user manual and you don't know how to use it. We're using your point and shoot, anything. We're taking the equipment that you have, and I talk all about the lighting, the different scenarios and situations in which you can get great pictures. I give you tips and tricks on how to work with kids or how to style a flat lay for your business. I even have an option where I will talk with you. We have like a virtual one-on-one session where you can ask any questions. We can go over wardrobe. You can walk me around your house and I can tell you the best places to take pictures or how to declutter your area so that your images look good. And then finally, after you feel confident to take the pictures, you send them to me and then I edit them. And this was taking away a huge objection from people that they say, well, I take pictures all the time, but they never look good. And a lot of that is just, it's comes in some form of editing. So I say, well, that's one less thing you need to worry about. Let me edit them for you. And then I give them back to you. So I do have 2 offerings that kind of shifted and allowed me to help so many more people during this time. And one is for families and one are for businesses and brands.
Yeah, and actually I was stalking you, of course. So I looked at all of your courses. But like the before and after where you show what it looks like before and then after I edit them, I'm like, wow, I could edit my photos better. I'm like, the before picture is what my pictures look like right now. And it was just cool to see that it really did brighten it up and make it look way more professional. And I don't know how it's probably simple for you because you've done it for so long and you have so much practice. But for the rest of us, that is a huge barrier. Like maybe what software do I use? What button do I even push when I get in there? And is it really going to look any better? So I bet that is a huge relief for everybody.
Yeah, I hope so, because you don't need to have to learn a whole new skill in order to get great pictures. Especially, like you said, for me, it's so simple for me because I have practiced and I do have that skill and that's my expertise. And if you can not have to worry about that, then you have more time to spend with your family. You have more time to build your business. You have more time to do the things that you love instead of trying to like fill your brain with all of these intricacies of like light and shifting and tone and blacks and whites and shadows and all of these things. Don't have to worry about that. Make that easy for yourself.
Yeah, that's really good. And I also looked at your photo gallery because you could like see the first one of the photo gallery back there and it was like so and so DIY, but I was like, whoa, those even turned out so good. And just when I was looking through the gallery as well. So anyways, I think that's impressive. And the price looks great because it didn't seem any more than just going to get your family photos done. And it's really accessible. It's something that you can take with you, moving forward too. So I just think that's awesome and so creative. So kudos to you.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah. So those are all the questions I have for you today. But is there anything else that you want to add just from our conversation that you came to mind, but I didn't really get to tap on?
No, I have loved getting to chat with you about so many things. And I love that you and I both share like just this love of business and learning. And it really, when people say like the entrepreneurial spirit, it really is like this thing that just is infused in you and allows you to want to grow and share and help and give. So I just love that we have that in common.
Yeah, thank you. And let us know before you go, tell us the name of your podcast one more time, and then where can we go to get that virtual course, whether it's for branding or for our families?
Perfect. So my podcast is called the Posed for Success podcast, right? So it's a play on the word poised for success, but it's posed because we're posing our bodies and everything for pictures. So the Posed for Success podcast, you can find that on Apple Podcasts or anywhere that you listen to your podcast, your favorite podcasting platform. And then as for my courses, the best way to find that is just through my website, which is brittanybenionphotography.com. I have all the information there. You can find out how to access my podcast, how to get to my courses. I actually have a third course that we didn't talk about. It's just a little mini course about how to use your smartphone in particular. So if you just want to master how to use your smartphone, or if you've got a bored teenager that needs like a skill, say, okay, here, there you go.
Yeah.
Go take a course. Go use your brain for a little bit. You've got this. That's all available there as well. So I'd love to see you over there and make some more connections. It's really fun.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, if I had a bored teenager, that sounds great. Go learn how to take our pictures well.
That's right.
Sounds like a course they'd enjoy, right? Well, awesome. Well, thank you so much again, and I'll put those links in the show notes as well.
Thank you so much for letting me be a part of your podcast.
What's one thing that's really been weighing you down? Are you ready to kick it to the side? Then join me for a Stress Less call today, where you'll learn the #1 mindset tool that I use to stop stressing and find relief right now. Go to icutthemustard.com/stressless to sign up for that call today.